Purpose of today's session is to cover some of the basic fundamentals of what cloud is. You guys would have heard in the technology landscape the word cloud computing. So I'll cover some of the basics and what cloud is and what are the different service models of cloud and how that kind of hangs together for the purposes of Salesforce. So couple of things we will cover today. I will talk about what is cloud computing, the specifically the different service models within cloud. Then we will talk about what software as a service is, which is a service model of cloud computing. I will very briefly talk about what Salesforce is, and again, if time permits, we will go into the navigation of Salesforce. First, talk about what is cloud computing. The notion of cloud is basically all of the infrastructure related, network related activities. For example, the servers, the databases, the network itself, the security are all shared. And the benefit of that is it creates scalability and it creates faster time to market. You don't have to sit and waste time on provisioning a lot of these services. You'll end up getting those services automatically as you start uh, licensing the products on a cloud. So if you think about, for those of you that have not come from IT backgrounds, when we talk about the servers, the databases, the network, the RAM, the speed, the whole shebang, it's basically like your own PC, right? So in the old days, if you had to install a software, think of it like you installing a software on your PC. A PC is a smaller version of a server. A server or a rack of servers would be a combination of high-end computers all put together so that a software can live on it. That's what I mean by old days companies had to procure servers, procure databases, procure hardware to be able to install a software or for the use of their business. Whereas in cloud, all of this has been taken care of by some other organization. You don't have to procure infrastructure. You don't have to procure hardware. You don't have to procure the network. You simply end up installing your product directly on the cloud infrastructure. It's in a nutshell, cloud computing is a remote virtual pool of on-demand shared resources that offer compute, storage, database, and network services and can be rapidly deployed at scale. Again, referencing back to old days when these tools or cloud computing didn't exist, then to add scale, for example, if you have 1,000 customers today and tomorrow you have 100,000 customers, to be able to service those 100,000 customers, you need to add more RAM, more storage, more compute, more database capacity, more latency in your network. All of that, again, in the context of cloud, you don't have to worry about because the organization that you're using the cloud from is going to provide that service to you. So in a way, scalability is also a non-issue when it comes to cloud. It brings all your devices. It's cloud also helps bring all your devices together. So your laptop, the tablets, the phones, through the power of internet and the fact that the databases are all shared, you can deliver a seamless service to your customers. You can deliver a service on either your mobile phone, then on your desktop, then on the tablets, and as a consumer, a customer can access all of that on their devices the way they want it. A little bit of a difference between what a cloud and on-prem is. An on-premise solution, as I was referring to the old ways of doing it. By the way, it's not just old ways of doing it. Organizations like financial services organizations today would still have an on-prem infrastructure, They do that for the purposes of security, for the purposes of making sure that any of their customer data is held by them, that is not randomly somewhere in a server or a database that they have no control over, or little control over, I should say. Uh, but most of the organizations outside of businesses that have very significant or deep compliance and data restrictions would opt to you go down the cloud path. Uh, an on-prem solution is typically more expensive. It is less scalable because it doesn't auto scale. You need to add more resources if you want to scale. To be able to create an on-prem solution, you need huge space, specifically because you need to set up the servers, the databases, the networks. It requires hardware and software teams for maintenance. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to own it in your own business. There were suppliers that they are suppliers that manage all of the physical infrastructure, so you can palm that off to someone else to manage. But all the same, you either have a team to manage or you're paying somebody else to manage. Uh, Data security is low on-prem because it is a physical location someone can go to. They know where the place is, whereas in the cloud, they actually don't know where the servers are held, other than the fact that it is held in Australia somewhere or India somewhere or US somewhere. Uh, the automated updates is a maybe in some of the instances. In some of the products that were on-prem, automated updates are available. Having said that, even if they were, you don't know what other products you're using with it. So generally speaking, you do that in test and deploy. So there is effort involved in managing all of that. There is less collaboration because a lot of the time the infrastructure team that is managing the on-prem infrastructure is very siloed. That's all they focus on. That's all they work on. Uh, data cannot be accessed remotely unless you have enabled a physical network for that data to be accessed, for which you'll have to create the network, which is again is a manual effort, and expose that data to the web or through the web or local network. But either way, that manually has to be done, and it takes a long time to implement because you're actually implementing everything else from ground up. By contrast, on the cloud, more than 80% of those things you don't have to think about. You simply buy the service. If you have if you have a need for a larger customer base, to support a larger customer base, the amount of money is relative to the resources that you utilize. You don't have to worry about buying the server, buying the RAM, buying the database storage or the network. You simply end up using it, and the more you use, the more you pay. It's basically the notion of cloud. There is no server space. You don't have to procure anything. You don't have to create anything. There are no data security issues that you have to consider because the organization that is hosting the servers is responsible for that data. Disaster recovery, you don't have to think about. The organization that hosts cares about the disaster recovery, the high availability, the automated software updates. You don't have to think about anything to do with the server updates. They manage. You don't have to care. Teams can collaborate on different look from different locations because all of this is cloud based. It is all connected because of the internet, and therefore teams can be distributed. It doesn't really matter where they are as long as they're able to support the cloud infrastructure as well as the application that you are working on. And data can be accessed and shared from anywhere, right? Implementation we've already talked about because you're simply buying the cloud infrastructure and then provisioning your product on it. Time to market is obviously much faster. There are three types of deployment models for cloud infrastructure. You can have and I'll talk about the key three ones. We won't talk about community because it won't impact you guys in the context of Salesforce either. But there is either a public cloud or a private cloud or a hybrid cloud, which is a combination of public and private. The public cloud is very simply a cloud that allows systems and services to be easily accessible for the general public, right? It is managed, it's not managed and owned by the individual company, which means it is available to anybody. Public clouds may be less secure because of the openness. So, for example, emails, if you think about Gmail, it is on a public cloud. And by contrast, an example of by contrast, the opposite of that is a private cloud that allows systems and services to be accessed only within an organization. It offers increased security because of its private nature, right? So with the private cloud, it's managed and owned by the individual company, using it and giving it greater and direct control of its data to the company. It's for companies who wish to have tighter controls on both the security and data controls within the architecture of their business. Whereas with public clouds, some of the data related or specifically security related issues are not as prevalent, are not as important. In a hybrid cloud, it's a mixture of private and public, where all the critical activities where data, for example, security is important and therefore needs to be in a private setting. It's not exposed to everybody. Then those things go in a private cloud. Things that are non-critical activities are performed using a public cloud. So that's the very definition of the three different services models that are available within the cloud infrastructure. You can have private, which is specifically for that organization. They control everything in that cloud. Or it's public, like your Gmails, where it is accessible to everybody. As long as you know the username password, you get through. And then there are hybrids where you control some of the things on a cloud that is privately owned, and some of it is exposed on the public clouds. If you look at the three services models of the cloud infrastructure, there are three layers or three levels of it. First one is infrastructure as a service, called IaaS. This is where a company, so for example, AWS is a good example of that company. They are a infrastructure as a service business. They're a cloud business, but they provide infrastructure as a service. So I don't get anything from them other than servers, other than storage, other than network. And I can build on top of that my own application, whatever I want to build. That's infrastructure as a service. On top of infrastructure as a service sits a service model called platform as a service. Platform as a service is basically where you can actually build any kind of app on an existing platform. It's their proprietary code. You're simply enabling your product on their platform. Think of it like the Apple Store, the Google Store, where you can put your own app if you wanted to, and that app will be consumed by many people across the world. The fact that you can build one of those apps on the platform that is provided by Apple and Google is platform as a service. They provide the platform. You don't have to do anything other than build your app and then deploy it on their platforms. Therefore, in this example, the product that you build, the app that you build is yours, but it sits on their platform, and which is the platform they provide as a service to you. Now, the third type of service model is where it's everything from infrastructure to platform to software, everything is covered. The business has already built an app, and they give that app to you so you can use it the way you want it for your customers. A good example of software as a service is Salesforce. In fact, it's one of the largest business, the number one leading CRM in the world, and the largest business that is based on a SaaS model. In the case of Salesforce, you don't have to worry about the infrastructure. All of that is taken care of. You don't have to worry about the platform uh, because they've built the product for you. And you simply have to configure the app, the software itself, and start using it. It's license based. You pay them the license per user, and you start using it. So in the context of Salesforce, when we talk about SaaS, SaaS, the number one name that comes up when we think about SaaS is Salesforce. Now, Salesforce itself also is also part of PaaS model because it gives us ability to create our own product on the Salesforce platform. So you don't have to use what Salesforce provide to you. You can build something completely new on top, like the mobile app example that I gave you. You can build your own app and put it on the Salesforce exchange, which is called Salesforce App Exchange. And therefore, it is also PaaS, but Salesforce is widely regarded as a SaaS product. Not very many people would talk about the fact that it is also PaaS. I'll pause for a minute. If there's any questions, I'll take them. Otherwise, I'll explain each of those three categories in a bit. Now, let's look at what is infrastructure as a service. Infrastructure as a service is the delivery of technology infrastructure as on-demand scalable service. It provides access to fundamental resources such as physical machines, virtual machines, virtual storages, as well as the network, the database, and the lot, usually built based on usage, usually multi-tenanted virtualized environments, and can be coupled and managed services for OS and application support. In a layman's term, when I gave you guys example of your own PCs and computers as servers, if you want to install a software on your computer, what do you need? You need disk space, you need enough compute, the compute services that you're running. For example, you might be running an Intel i7 processor or i5 processor or whatever else. Then you need RAM to be able to process things as quickly as possible. And you need, obviously, networks facilities. In infrastructure as a service, those things that I just talked about in its entirety are covered. They're covered by organizations like AWS or Google, who provide, or Google Cloud, who provide all of those services to you. So you don't have to worry about buying any of those. So the server management, the network management, virtualizing those environments, security management and data management, database management, all of that is taken care of. If infrastructure as a service is all about infra, then platform as a service is basically it's the runtime environment for applications. It provides development and deployment tools. It provides all the facilities required to support the complete lifecycle of building and delivering web applications, service it in its entirety through the internet. Typically, applications must be developed with a particular platform in mind. You can't just start randomly building something and then call it platform as a service. You have to start building it on the platform that is providing the service. So it's either the Apple's platform, or it is Google's platform, or in the case of Salesforce App Exchange, it is the Salesforce platform. And then comes your software as a service model that allows the use of a software application that's already pre-built and end users start consuming it. You have the ability to customize and configure the application, but all the bare bones in terms of process, workflow, the thought process around what a sales team needs, what a marketing team needs, all of that is already sorted. Basically, the software as a service model lends, like I said, Salesforce is the company that is known for SaaS itself. For those of you that are new to Salesforce, Salesforce is a customer relationship management system. I'll explain what that is. It's a platform that provides a customer 360-degree view. It's a platform for an entire business. Anybody in the business, sales, marketing, your digital media company, digital media businesses, your customer service, your debt recovery, any part of the business or all parts of the business can actually use Salesforce in its entirety and have their customer data in one platform where they can see a 360-degree view of their customers. Uh, Salesforce have also made an effort to build their entire platform for each of the industry. So, for example, for health industry, they've built something what they call Health Cloud, which basically means they've already thought about the things that are important in health industries and already pre-built on their platform. For financial services industries, banks, lenders, they've already built something called the Financial Services Cloud. So therefore, it as a as a business, Salesforce has thought about some of the key verticals or key industries uh, in the world, and practically for every industry have built a platform for. Uh, if you don't want to use Salesforce for everything in your business, you can use it for specific functions. You can use it just for sales and not use it for service or marketing, for example. If you use it for service, you don't have to use it for sales. And lastly, I call it automation means tailored experiences because it allows as a platform to still give tailored experience to your customer. Me as a company can give a different experience altogether to someone else as a business and still use the same platform and still be able to automate our processes. So, and that's the power of the platform. You're able to give different experiences to your customers whilst still being able to automate the different manual processes that otherwise live in all organizations. Uh, if you think about your day-to-day life, then there would be number of businesses that you generally interact with that would probably be using something like a Salesforce behind the scenes. Now, you let's look at an example. You all are at least familiar with banking in a way or form. You all have applied to open a bank account. Some of you may already have loans with them, with the same bank. Some of you may even have credit cards with them. A customer relationship management system like Salesforce is basically a single place where all your activities, everything that you have ever done with the bank, whilst you open your, from the day you opened your account for the first time, you went and spoke to someone in the branch, you went and opened an account, signed an application form. After that, you didn't get your debit card, so you called someone in the customer service. You were unhappy with them. You raised a complaint. Your debit card arrives in 5 days' time. You used your debit card, how frequently, for what purposes. Uh, then, after a few years, you apply for a credit card with them. You know, the credit card interest rate wasn't good, so you called them again. You escalated. You asked for a better rate. They gave you a better rate, uh, and then you used their card. After that, you took a mortgage eventually, and you bought a house. You got a valuation done. You bought a mortgage. You pay your mortgage. After 5 months, you lose your job. You apply for something else. Every scenario that I've just painted for you is captured in the customer relationship management system. If as a bank, they would be able to go to your name, to your account. In Salesforce, your name is called an account. They would be able to go to your account and see how many times you've called the bank, whether you were happy or unhappy when you spoke to them, what services you are using from the bank, including credit card, debit card, ATM cards, uh, the mortgages that I talked about. Are you a good customer? Are you paying on time? Are you falling behind? Everything about you, your interaction with the bank, how you use your card, all captured in a CRM solution. Salesforce is obviously the number one CRM in the world, so therefore does a lot of that much more efficiently And for each of the industries has thought through a lot of those processes already. A customer 360-degree view is frankly just a salesy name that Salesforce has given, but a CRM is meant to be that in the first place. CRM's job is to provide a 360-degree view of your customer to you. So in one view, you're able to see exactly what your customer is doing. So that's the very notion of Salesforce. Salesforce has broken down the platform into multiple clouds, as what they call it. You will see here called Sales Cloud. This is an application they've built specifically for sales teams. They've already thought about how leads are managed, how leads are converted to opportunities, how opportunities are converted into deals, and that's basically the sales lifecycle. Also thought about who in the sales leadership team needs visibility of what. So the reports and the dashboards are all available for a sales organization, right? They've built a product called or an app called Service Cloud. This is for the service teams. So in my previous example of a bank, if you had called a customer service team and raised a complaint about the fact that your card didn't arrive, uh, a customer service person will be using Salesforce Service App or Service Cloud and logging your case or your request in Service Cloud so that everybody in the business can see that you've and gain a 360-degree view. In Service Cloud, you can track different cases. Every time a customer raises a complaint or has a request, it's lodged as a case in Salesforce Service Cloud. Similar to Sales Cloud, it's very thought through about service teams. So you think about service level agreements, you think about different departments, you think about automated workflows, you think about case, you think about cycle times. All of that is in Service Cloud. Similar to sales and service, they've built one for marketing teams called Marketing Cloud, something called Experience Cloud for websites where people can come and use and build their websites basically on Salesforce. For analytics, they've built an Analytics Cloud. For apps, they've obviously got the Apps Cloud or the App Exchange that I talked about. Uh, Same thing they have for Commerce Cloud, same thing they have for IoT, and so on and so forth. And this pool of applications is just growing by the as months go by. It used to be the three main apps were Sales Service and uh, Communities, which is now Experience Cloud. And now you can say that they've got Commerce Cloud, IoT Cloud, B2B Cloud. Uh, uh, there's number, even Health Cloud, Financial Services Cloud, just name it, and they have it. Even non-profit cloud. So for organizations that are non-for-profit, they've even got a cloud specific to their day-to-day needs. Below this application stack, we look at how they have built it together, right? So we talked about the fact that you don't have to worry about infrastructure in Salesforce. That's because they've taken care of that entire infrastructure. They've got the infrastructure along with the databases, and within the databases, they've allowed for data to be available across the board, either for CRM or for IoT cloud or for even social integration. Above that layer, they've put in all the analytics layer, which basically provides predictive analysis, provides all your AI and machine learning, and surfaces all of that information up to your applications like Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, and so on and so forth. Now, what we will do next, if there's no other questions on Salesforce, I'd like you guys all to log into Salesforce and we'll start navigating a little bit in Salesforce just so that you get a little bit familiar with it. All right. So first things first, what we will do is sign up to, let me share my screen again. We will sign up to a development org. Just Google it. And the first thing you'll get will be developer edition sign up. Click on that. And this page will come up. and fill your information in this form. Keeping in mind, if you've already got a sandbox that you've already created, you can't use the same email address. So use a new email address and make sure this username at the bottom is completely unique. So if it comes back, if you submit, sign me up, and it comes back that this username already exists, then create one that is completely unique. Ideally, I would say put your first name, then your date of birth, at company could be anything. You can call it saasguru.sandbox. It's fine, but the username should be unique. And generally speaking, your name and date of birth hopefully will be unique. Once you create it, it should give you a window like this. It's almost there. Please check your email to confirm your account. Everybody with me so far? You guys have reached here. If you've reached the Salesforce screen, when you first sign in, you would land on this page. I'll show you guys a couple of things in the interest of time. Got about 5, 6 minutes before I take any questions. The rest of it, you will obviously go through in the bootcamp program in any case. But I wanted to make sure you guys are familiar. You land on this page. There are a couple of things that are of most importance to note. First thing is this, your app launcher. I talked about how Salesforce has multiple apps, the Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Experience Cloud, and so on and so forth. You would access them through the app launcher. So you click on app launcher and you'll see all the apps here. You can type sales and it will give you sales. And you simply go onto your Sales Cloud app. If you wanted to go to service, you will go to the app launcher again, click on service, and click on service, and you'll get to service, right? So that's your number one thing you should know about. Every time your instructor tells you to go to different apps, he's asking you to go to the app launcher and find the app or launch the other app. In this case, right now, we are on Salesforce app, Sales Cloud app, sorry. And as you can see, this app, because it is for sales, it talks about leads, opportunities, tasks, campaigns, everything that a generally sales team needs to know and works with. If I quickly go to service, you will see that my menus on top have all changed. And now they talk about cases, contacts, chatter. Chatter is like, think of it like a WhatsApp on your Salesforce environment. You can chat with internal members of your team, and even mention different customers' accounts and say, I need help with this account, and even escalate things to your managers and say, I'm not sure what to do here. I need your help. All of that can be done within the Salesforce chatter. So this entire menu system changes based on the app that you are working on. Yeah. So that is the first thing you should know about. And the other thing you should know about is this little cog called setup. If you hover over it, it says setup. Click on this and click on setup, which says setup for current app. And that opens up a menu that looks like this, right? And it's basically giving you setup for your current app that you're using. If you want to go and say you want to add new users to Salesforce, you click on quick find. So you'll hear these words a lot in the training. Trainer asking you to go to quick find, trainer asking you to go to setup. So click on setup, go to quick find and type user. When you type user, you will get all the options that have user in it. When you're trying to add user or freeze a user in Salesforce, then you'll click on users and it gives you the option to add or freeze any specific user that you want to freeze. So you can add multiple users at the same time, or you can click on new user, which is basically adding a new user. And you can say this is test, right? All the reds highlight the fact that it is mandatory information to add. User licenses, depending on what licenses you have in the org, you'll be able to assign. For the purposes of test, I'm just going to put either Salesforce or Chatter free. So that gives them platform license. You can give them profiles. So if they are, sales profile or support profile, marketing profile, profile basically means they will get uh, access, permissions, rights on the platform based on the persona of the profile. So if it's a salesperson, then they'll get all the access that a salesperson should get. If it's a service profile, then it will give them all the access that a service uh, person should get in that business. And everything else should already be there. I'll hit save, and it saves a user. So this is just an example of how you navigate in Salesforce. All of this you will learn much more deeply in the bootcamp program. I'm just walking you guys through so you don't get stuck when the trainer starts talking about it that you're still struggling to navigate. So just remember setup. Number one thing you need to remember is setup. Everything you'll do is through setup. As an administrator, will be through setup. And anything you're looking to find after setup, user or permissions, this is permission sets. You'll use that also in the training. You will find that by simply searching there. If you need, so that is number one thing. Setup is your number one. Number two is quick find, where you'll find everything else. Number three is object manager. This is where all your objects and fields will be created. What are objects, what are fields would all be explained to you, those that are going through the bootcamp program. In it basically it's the way you store data in Salesforce or any database object-oriented program product, which basically means if I need to store somebody's name, I have to create a field where that name gets stored. In the context of Salesforce, obviously some of those things are already done, the likes of name. So you see a name field here, you see an email field here. Salesforce itself has created those fields for us under the user object. And so I don't have to create it. But if I want to start storing additional data against that customer, if I want to store, whether this customer is married or not, for example, then I would create what they call a custom field. So custom fields and objects will be created and managed under Object Manager. You'll click on this and hit plus new object. And this is how you would create a new object. I'm going to create one. If I click on Object Manager, it will give me all the objects already created. Think of objects as your large body. So it's basically a category of the data. And then fields are your actual information, the data itself that sits under that category. In most of the examples, in when you look at object and fields, examples are given like Excel sheet. Excel sheet has the whole sheet is the object, the rows and the columns are the fields. So just be mindful of that to be able to access objects, you click on Object Manager, click on the object itself. So if somebody says add a custom field on account, you click on account, you click on field and relationships. These are all the fields already there. If you want to add a new one, you click on new and you can create a new field, right? So it starts giving you the option. A lot of the stuff in Salesforce is really self-explanatory. You start logically following your brain. When we say add a field, look up where, if it says field and relationships, chances are it's under there. Then when it says add, create a new field, click new. It's obviously creating a new field. Then it starts to give you different details of the field type. Select one. So let's say this is a checkbox. Are you married or not? Select yes. Select just a checkbox that says you are. So now it's going to create a checkbox for you. I'll click next. Married. Default value is unchecked. I can decide that. Field name is married. Next. And because it's mandatory fields, I've done it. Now it's basically going to tell me which user, which profile. Remember, initially we selected a profile. Would it be visible for? Then you select it for all, just for ease. Otherwise, you can decide that only this user type or this profile will be able to see this. And I'll click save. Done. So now it would have created under account. Go back to fields. And there. So it's created a married checkbox that I created, and that field is there. So that's number three, important point number three. For objects, you'll go to Object Manager. For everything else, you'll click on Home and find whatever you need, either user, roles, permissions. So if it's to do with objects and fields, you'll find it here. Everything else you'll find in QuickFiles. Okay. And point number four that I initially talked about, which is your app launcher, it's right here. It's the 9 dots. Search the app. So if somebody says, go to this app, say, okay, click on these 9 dots, look for the app, click on it, and you'll land there. That's the top 4 things I wanted to highlight to you guys. I highlighted this because you'll be needing these things in your training in coming days. Don't panic if you haven't followed through. Your trainer will explain all of this again. I just wanted to give you some more information out ahead of the curve. I thank you for joining the session. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions afterwards, by all means, reach out to me on our Slack community.